Thanks, Jay, for setting this stage with some awesome jams. We'll go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. I'm Margot Conahan. I'm ACRL's Manager of Professional Development. Thanks for joining us for today's ACRL Presents webinar. Our goal for these webinars is to bring our colleagues together to discuss issues of broad interest and importance to the academic and research library community. And we really appreciate you being here with us today. You might have heard today's presentation is being recorded, but we wanted to let you know that the Q&A portion will not be recorded. So we'll be posting the presentation only portion of the recording online after the session today. Today's webinar is ACRL Strategic Vision for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Members of the ACRL Board of Directors and the ACRL EDI Committee will speak on the ACRL Plan for Excellence's newest goal area, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, which was approved by the board in November 2022. I'd like to thank our presenters for being here with us today as they share how ACRL will center and emphasize the board's vision and implementation for the new EDI goal area and objectives. Our presenters today are Beth McNeil, ACRL Vice President and Dean of Libraries at Purdue University, Julie Garrison, ACRL Past President and Dean of Libraries at Western Michigan University, Sandra Riggs, EDI Committee Member and Research and Instruction Librarian at the University of Georgia, Athens, Paul Ness, EDI Committee Member and Resident Librarian at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and Jay Salvador, EDI Committee Member, Research and Instruction Librarian at the University of Washington, Bothell and Cascadia College. And Jay, I believe you're kicking us off today, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Margot. We just want to take a moment to give you the quick overview of what we hope this presentation will sort of provide you information-wise, and then we'll move forward into a little bit of some membership participation, some time for Q&A, as well as the reflection questions that we want to send you away with. So really quickly, we'll talk about sort of the context for structurally in this association, what a goal area committee is, what the goal is. We'll give you some background on sort of the history of this in our association and how the goal was developed, and the participation of the EDI committee in collaboration with the board on developing the language for the goal, and then what's next. So I could do a whole separate webinar on the things that I have learned about the association and the structure of the association in my time as a member and committee member. I'm going to just really quickly show you what this looks like to really let you know. Yes, the PDF, it loads. To let you know that it is basically a standing committee. There's about 30 within the entire association structure. And probably a lot of you know, if you're members of like interest groups or sections or communities of practice and that kind of thing, that these all have different terms, some of them for 2 years. This particular one, like all of the committees, is a standing committee. And here those all are. Again, this is a whole other webinar I could give you, but what is unique now with this kind of goal area designation, it just means that this particular committee's area of focus is now one of the 5-year goals outlined in the Plan for Excellence. Oh, okay, I accept the cookies, always. Cookie monster. All right, so here are the 5-year goals and objectives in the Strategic Plan for Excellence. And you'll see, the other five-year goal area committees, value of academic libraries, student learning, and ours is right here. It's the newest one, and that's why. And the goal is, let's see, do I actually have the power? There we go. The goal is that academic and research libraries will practice cultural humility, will promote community accountability, and be unwavering in their ongoing iterative commitment to remedy systemic inequalities in their contexts. We also have some really concrete objectives. Oh, and Ava, thank you so much for sharing these links. We have some concrete objectives about how we're hoping to enact and engage this 5-year goal. And you'll see, this has to do with interrogating and dismantling white supremacist structures, that we're hoping to build relationships based on the 2022 cultural proficiencies for racial equity. So I just, now Beth and Julie are going to talk a little bit about the sort of the background of this and how it's moved from, being a core commitment in the strategic plan to also having a very concrete 5-year goal.
Thank you, Jay. And Julie and I want to talk a little bit about, it's kind of a short history, 6 years back with the board and how we've gotten to where we are today. So back at Midwinter, which was LLX before it changed its name, that would be in January of 2017, the board agreed at that meeting to draft a statement affirming ACRL's commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and a working group was formed, as we do in our association. At that point, it was a statement, just an affirmation, and I was on the board at that point, although I did have to dig into deeply into board notes to find this history. But we shared it with the diversity committee and also the professional values committee for input. The diversity committee had quite a bit. At that time, Kenny Garcia was the chair. And after Midwinter, there was an ACRL post published about it, affirming once again the board's commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, and access. And that was in 2017. Shortly after that, SPAs, which is strategic planning and orientation, I think, although now they're separate, but SPAs meeting typically happens in the fall. And it's a retreat type thing where at that point in time, goal area committee leaders, so the chairs and vice chairs, joined the board. And a big part of that 2-day meeting, as I recall, was really discussing how the board and the goal area committees could integrate EDI into the plan of excellence in the work of the, at that time, 4, I think it may have even been 3, but I think 4 goal area committees. Later that fall, the board had one of its virtual meetings, and we discussed and eventually revised the plan of excellence to include really more work from the goal area committees. Fast forward again to Midwinter of 2018, again, formerly LLX for our newer members. The Leadership Council, which was a meeting that pre-pandemic days happened in person the Friday of the beginning of the ALA conference. And it was generally very well attended. Committee members, anybody in a leadership role, which could be a committee member, a committee leader, the board, etc., would come to these sessions. A big part of that Leadership Council meeting, as I recall, was really discussing equity, diversity, and inclusion and what we could do as an association. After the Leadership Council, the board also continued to discuss it. And at that meeting, we received a recommendation from the working group, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Working Group, that the board, this was again 2018, the board add a 5th goal to the plan for excellence and elevate the existing diversity committee to a goal area committee. So again, 2018, there was, as I recall, significant support for elevating the diversity committee at that board meeting, but also a recognition that we just talked with goal area committees about how to integrate EDI into their work. And what would this mean? A lot of discussion. And you can dig into the minutes and see a lot of it. But basically, collectively, as the board does, we agreed we wanted to support a major DEI initiative. We just weren't sure what that could look like. And so 2 days later, again, when board met in person many times at our meetings at ALA, we continued the discussion. And again, agreed, we needed to show the commitment. We were feeling strongly about it, but we were thinking more about a signature initiative at that point, what it could look like, what it might fit in with current ACRL initiatives, et cetera. And the discussion, as I recall, centered around, would it be more significant, have more impact as a signature initiative, or would it be stronger if it was a new goal area? And there were strong opinions on the board, but everybody was engaged. I remember that very clearly as something that we were all committed to. We just weren't sure what to do next. So again, a working group was charged, but we did agree that we wanted the board to communicate its commitment again and report out steps to ACRL members. So the concept of a signature initiative was officially approved, voted on, et cetera. We also agreed we would amend the ACRL Plan for Excellence to include it, even if we didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. And we were going to do that no later than the next midwinter. So we gave ourselves a year. And that we wanted to look at the Leadership Council information that was collected at the various tables, and then also think about how to engage all ACRL members, stakeholders, to find out more about how they thought ACRL as an association should engage with this signature idea, initiative, focus on EDI. So there is a blog post that was published in August of 2018. Board member Leroy LaFleur, Lee took the lead on that. He was also our division counselor at that time. And the title was ACRL Signature Initiative on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Poll Results, because we had polled all members. And I think, if I recall, we had 800 plus responses. So clearly our members were ready for ACRL to engage in this area. I think I'm taking almost all of our 5 minutes. Sorry, Julie. One more quick comment. So in fall of 2018, a new core commitment to EDI was approved. And it's basically been in place since then. And its goal was really to permeate all areas of the association so that our association could best support moving in the direction of equitable, inclusive, and diverse librarianship and library workers. So you can read the core commitment. I bet some of us actually know it by heart. We're okay for time. Okay, thank you. But that was fall of 28. How we got to really, I guess I can't stress enough. I was on the board for most of that time as a member at large, director at large, whatever. And it really was a consuming part of the work we were doing. So a lot of time and commitment and really discussion, hard discussions at that time went into it. But we ended up with a new core commitment that was then became part of our plan for excellence moving forward. So I'll turn to Julie to bring us to today.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks for that great history on the core commitment. When I came onto the board in 2020 as Vice President-Elect, the core commitment was we talked about in every conversation that we had. How did what we were trying to achieve live up to our value and our core commitment to EDI? So this definitely was a part that had become part of ACRL and part of what we did and how we talked about our future. And during my time as presidency, it was actually a midwinter again. It was still called midwinter, I think. No, LLX. It was LLX by then, but it was online in 2022. And the conversation came out of another working group. What had happened is we had received some feedback that expressed there were some challenges in terms of how ACRL was meeting the needs of people of color. And the working group came back with a number of initiatives that was suggesting the board consider undertaking in terms of things like a bylaws and policy review, and really interrogating what our practices were through an anti-racist lens, looking at current practices and how members are recognized for their time and the effort and the ways that they dedicate advancing association work, strengthening our communication throughout the association, and using that connection between the board liaisons and sections and committees as an intentional way to advance EDI. And then also increasing transparency about what we do with leadership recruitment and nominations. This discussion went in a number of different places, and it came back to also saying we are involved in a number of EDI efforts, but are these transparent? Are they clear? Are they articulated well to our association? And what more do we need to be doing to make sure that we are advancing and changing? At this time, Maisha Carey was the chair of the EDI committee. She was also helping to lead some of these conversations with us and very engaged with the board. And out of that conversation came the question of why is this not a goal? And so at that time, we did look at that history. We understood the core commitment and its development, and reaffirmed that we did have the core commitment, and also realized that we needed to articulate goal language to further elevate the work that that ACRL is doing and is committed to doing for the association, for our members, and for ourselves as an association in order to further this work. Out of that, we had the luxury of having a very strong EDI committee that had been working to find ways to really advance the core commitment since 2018. And so working with that group, we were able to move forward in articulating goal language. And for the first time ever, we really had a committee taking the lead on the development of that language, which I think helps it feel more powerful and impactful from where I'm standing. So a number of conversations, but really had the committee involved from actually that conversation that happened with the board to the point that the goal was adopted and approved by the board. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Jay. Or, oh, Sandra.
Well, our slide here is an overview that starts with lots of collaboration between the board and EDI. But let me set the stage for that process by focusing on the EDI committee's participation. So we'll take a quick move to the next slide. Okay, so our work was wide-ranging. We had pre-work that went from articles to information from the strategic planning and orientation session, the SPOS. So there was a lot that we reviewed along with the framework. And in addition, we had brainstorming sessions through Zoom with lots of breakout rooms. And an example of an racial equity frame that might be focused on in one breakout room would be something like addressing and interrogating how white supremacy, white privilege, and racism shows up in libraries. And then another room might look at another frame, accountability, assessment, and implementation. So we had meetings 3 days, 1 week in August, where the committee came together and then could join in these different breakout rooms for a deeper conversation. This work gave us the foundation for the subcommittee work in September, where the actual wordsmithing on the goal area occurred. And so then we can move back to our overview slide, and then I'll transition and ask Tal Ness to continue discussing that process.
Yeah, so I joined the EDI committee when I was a grad student at Chicago State University. I wanted to join a committee that broadly looked at EDI within the profession so I could sort of find my footing and my place within the association. And I was drawn to the goal and objectives writing process early on because it gave me an opportunity to use my voice and platform to amplify the work of others, including past and current members, and the cultural proficiencies for racial equity framework. To my knowledge, I hadn't seen ACRL directly address white supremacy within the association. So inspired by someone whose writing I looked up to in grad school, April Hathcock, I wanted ACRL to acknowledge the pervasiveness of whiteness within academia by making it visible on the strategic plan.
Thank you, Sandra and Tal. I lost my presenter view, so I'm going to quickly escape this and get myself back to that. Sorry, y'all. Happy Tuesday morning from where I'm sitting. And we're going to head back. Oh, there we go. Okay. And I just wanted to say, I really appreciate so much the context, because I really do, you know, I've even learned something today. I knew some of this background, but I wasn't there in 2018, 2017 when these discussions were happening, but it feels like the strategic plan, of course, still affirms that core commitment, and adding this goal sort of feels like kind of a belt and suspenders move. Like we're just making sure we're, you know, holding ourselves accountable in all the ways, which I really appreciate. So in terms of how the committee is operating differently now, and I actually am not sure that might have been the right question at the moment we were thinking about this, but I'm still not convinced of the language. But what this transition means is that we are really sustaining our emphasis that EDI work is everyone's work, and that it does happen most effectively when people are working in their contexts and in their communities. So we're going now to reach out a little bit differently, sort of in this clearinghouse model. And our goal is to ask, you know, of members in the association, of groups in the association, of libraries whose members are associated here. How are you doing the work? How can we help you share it? We're going to ask, how can we support and amplify your work? And in the grand tradition of libraries, would you like us to help you document that work? You know, can we create some kind of an archive, or again, you know, like knowledge repository, so that if people want to be duplicating the work or having overlapping work or collaboration, they can do that. But if they're, you know, they're not trying to, you know, duplicate efforts or things like that, you know, there's a place where we can kind of find this information out. So we do want to support every member's, really every library's many pathways in EDI work. And so many folks across the association are already in the work, and we honor that. And just, we ask next, how can we influence institutions throughout our membership and beyond? And how can we sustain the long-term work and move the mountains? So Beth, what's next?
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Pretty much what is on the slide is what I wanted to talk about, but I would encourage everybody here to register for the town hall. It's going to be terrific, and encourage your ACRL friends to do so too. So it's June 29th, 1 p.m. Central Time. And again, stressing it's open to all, and it's an opportunity for our member leaders to really discuss EDI work and the goal moving forward, goal plans. So please register for that. And then also, we talked ahead of this at length about what we can do, ACRL, the board, but member leaders, to really help EDI and accessibility work in our workplace, but also making ACRL a place where our members can safely engage, as it says, and participate in EDI work, because we do recognize from hearing from members, from personal experiences, that has grown increasingly challenging for some of us in our home institutions and libraries. So think of ACRL maybe as an ally to this sort of work. If you're having difficulty doing it yourself, or you just want to keep participating, you can do so in ACRL many ways, but also think of us as a place to come for comfort and safety, I guess I would say. And then we do also have, well, ALA does, the Leroy C. Merritt Humanitarian Fund application. Thanks, Jay. And it's really an opportunity for members who are experiencing perhaps job loss, being denied employment rights based on discrimination. You can read the many ways there. it's a place to apply for assistance when you're in that sort of situation. And the last couple of months, we know we have members who are. So that's one thing ACRL can share. And I think it's not widely known, but now's a time when probably we need to get the word out a little bit more. So please register for the town hall and hear about EDI work. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, thanks everyone. So we're now in our phase of taking questions, having a member-centered discussion. So we will actually discontinue the recording, if that's right.